All right, and welcome back to video 26. And in video 26, I'm going to show you how I made up that roundhouse and turntable section that I used in video 25. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out two things. One is I do complain a bit about AnyRail and the fact that AnyRail doesn't do some things that I think it should. I come from a CAD background, so I'm kind of used to the way that CAD works. And sometimes I expect that function in AnyRail, and it's not there. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like AnyRail. I really like AnyRail, and I wouldn't be doing these videos if I didn't. But you might hear me say, oh man, I wish it would do this, or oh man, I wish it would do that. And that's just me complaining. I'm getting old, so you'll just have to put up with it. The other thing is we're going to be working with a couple of entities that are coming out of the Walther's HO user object library. And I'm going to point out a couple of things that I found that are wrong with the objects, but I just want to right up front say I am not putting down the object or the people who made these objects. And I have nothing but respect for those of you who take the time to go and design all this stuff over here and in all the libraries and then post it so we can use it. It's just that when I was working with it, I found a couple of little oddities, and it's nothing major, and it's, nothing that is going to make you tear your hair out. It's just something I'm going to point out in this video. So to those of you who actually take the time and make user objects, I thank you. And I think everybody else thanks you too. Okay, so let's see how I built this up. Now I'm going to show you how I built it up out of the ready-made components that are, in this case, they're in the Walther's HO library. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how I modified this turntable to make it a little more user-friendly. At least in my opinion, a little bit more user-friendly. Now, this is probably a subject for another video, and I suspect that video is coming up, and it'll be about putting in entities from the libraries. But I have to figure out exactly how they come in. I'm not quite sure about that. So if I come over here and I grab the turntable, it pops in. Now if I grab another one, it puts it almost on top of that one. So, it's kind of interesting how it comes in. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to drag this guy down, get some working room. Now the question here is, where is the center of this turntable? And that's something we would like to know because we need to lay out our tracks. And I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a little while. But we need to really know where that center of that turntable is. So what I did is I came down here, and you can tell I come from a CAD background. I like to be able to, know where the center is or be able to put it in precisely, using some XY coordinates. But anyway, what I did here is I moved this so I had it on a couple of grid lines. So let me move that over. Now I'm going to zoom in. And yeah, you can look at this and you can say, oh, look, well, that handle is right in the middle. Well, if you look at it, that handle is not quite in the middle. I'll show you that in just a second. Let's get this lined a little more precisely here. Okay, now I can come up here and I can say add a line and come down. And it's pretty close, I think, but I don't think it's exact. What I did to find the center is, and you may not worry about this, you may just drag the turntable into place. But like I said, you need to be able to line your tracks coming in to a center point. So what I did is this. I came up here and I put my mouse sort of right on that point right there. And I said add a line, and then I brought it down. I came over here and I looked at this again. And I said, all right, my other point is right about there. So we will add a line and we'll bring it down like that. And then I just went and I selected the turntable so I could see where the box is. And I came up and I said, all right, I'm going to drag that down to right about there. Let's see how close I got. Not bad. Let's come over just a little bit more towards the line there. Okay, now let's do this one. I need to bring it up to right about there. Now I could put an arrow in, but I'm just going to drag it up, mark it like that, and come back. And as you can see, I don't need to move that again because I'm pointed right at that corner. So there's my center, right there. And right off you will notice that the turntable bridge is off center. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to correct that. So then what I did is I came up here and I grabbed the endpoint like that, selected it, held down Shift, and I dragged that point back to there. And I did that for all four corners. So let me do that. Then I came in and I said, put an arrow on there. Okay, so now I have my center marked. I also have markers on the outside that I can use to line up with a grid if I want. So now that's pretty cool. But they're at 45 degrees to the center of the box that this thing lives in. So what I can do here is I can select that, I can select that, and I can say rotate. And we'll just rotate it 45 degrees like that. And now if we select the outer box, it sort of lines up with it, doesn't it? Now I can come out here and I can grab everything like that and I can move it around with my up-down arrows or left-right arrows if I want, or I can grab it and move the whole thing like that. And if I want to put it on a grid, I can easily see that I'm on a line like that. Now, it would be really, really nice if I could come in here now and I could say group, but I can't group. For some reason, AnyRail will not let you group lines like this or track to an object that you've brought in from a library. Now I can come here, I can do this, I can do that, and I can say group. But I can't add the turntable into the group, and I think that's kind of a failing. In CAD, you can group anything you want. They don't even have to be connected. I could have something over here, and I could have it in the same group. But anyway, we now have our turntable like that. We can rotate this any way we want, and we know where the center is. So we're off to a good start here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the whole drawing, and we want to put in this roundhouse. So let's go grab that roundhouse. There it is. I'm going to drag it down here. And I'm going to pause here because my daughter and granddaughter are here, and I'll be right back. Okay, that was a nice little visit. Thank you for putting up with that. Now, there's really not much that we have to do with this roundhouse other than I'm going to pull it down here, and I am going to kind of line it up on a grid line. So let's zoom in, and you'll see why I'm doing this in just a moment. In fact, I'm going to bring it up to here. There. Okay, now when I made this up here with all this track, it took me a while to get it into my little brain that this roundhouse represents 60 degrees of a circle. And don't laugh, the way I figured that out is I took another roundhouse and I put it here, and I took another roundhouse and I put it here, and I said, oh look, it's half a circle, so each one of these must represent 60 degrees. Okay. But anyway, each one represents 60 degrees. That means you have to rotate the track for each stall 10 degrees because there's 6 stalls and it's a 60-degree slice. Now, I'm going to show you how I made these tracks up here, but I think I have a better way. But I'm going to show you what I did up here. So it takes a little bit of time. I took a piece of track and I rotated it. Let's zoom in on it so we can see it a little bit better. So I came up here and I said, I want you to be at 0 degrees. Then I put it on a grid point. So let's see what this grid point is. We're going to look down at the bottom, see where our mouse is. Our mouse is at 84.48. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to put this at 84 and 48. Now, since our roundhouse is on 10 degrees, I'm going to rotate the track clockwise and counterclockwise. And I'm always going to rotate it around this center. So we know that this is 60 degrees, and we're going to have to do 10 degrees rotation. Now, the first track, and I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go clockwise. The first track, we're only going to rotate 5 degrees because we are already on the center line between the two. So I only have to go 5 degrees this way and 5 degrees this way to get them right. And then when you put it together, you've got 10 degrees between them. Now I'm going to rotate from this point here. And you would think that since I'm rotating clockwise like this, for those of you who remember clock faces, that I would go, well, this is 180 degrees, and I want to go to 175 degrees. That isn't the way it's going to work here. I need to rotate around a center. If I rotated here, the track would swing this way from the top. I need to rotate it from the top, which means I have to go to 355 degrees, and now I've got the correct rotation. So what I'll do now, like I said, this takes a while, is I'm going to copy this guy, and I'm going to paste him in. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to select his endpoint, and I'm going to say 84, 48, and now I'm going to subtract 10 degrees from that. I'm going to go 345. And now I've got 2 tracks. And if I take my roundhouse, bring it up, you'll see that they're starting to fall into line. Okay, now we're going to paste in another one. We're going to come up here. We're going to grab his endpoint. We're going to go 84, 48. Now we've already did 345 degrees for this one, so we're going to do 335 degrees for that guy. So now we've got 3 pieces of track coming off of here. So what I'm going to do here, just to make it simple on myself, is I'm going to take this piece of track and I am going to put him at 84, 48, and I'm going to rotate him, let's say 5 degrees. There we go. And now we'll take him. We will copy him. Oops, can't do it that way. We'll paste him. Do the same thing. We'll make him 15 degrees. And then we'll do it one more time. $25 degrees. There are the tracks for our roundhouse. And just to confirm, we can bring our roundhouse over, we can slide it and line it up as best as we can, and there we go. We have tracks leading in, and we have a center point for our tracks. Okay, let me break in here and let me add this. This is something I forgot to tell you when we were putting these tracks in here. Now, I did all of this with Auto Connect off. And the reason I did that with Auto Connect off is I just didn't want to take a chance of, if I moved one of these slightly, that it would snap in place. So watch what happens if I have Auto Connect on and I'm working on this and I accidentally move it just a little bit. Oh, it does that. So let me reset that. So I kept Auto Connect off because occasionally when you are working here, you might nudge it a little bit one way or the other. In fact, earlier when I was putting the track in, I nudged this guy a little bit just to the right, and I edited out the portion where I put him back. But I pushed him a little bit to the right, and had I had Auto Connect on, he would have snapped into place at the end of one of these pieces of track. Now that I have them all put together, I can leave Auto Connect on. And I can drag them around as one piece. But should I accidentally nudge one of these guys, it's going to connect. But as we get farther along, as you'll soon see, it doesn't really matter about auto connect because we're going to be pulling these tracks back. So let's get back to the original video. Now we need to get this turntable onto that center point. So I'm going to pull this down here, and I see I'm going to run into this guy up here. So let's move him. Move him out of the way like that. All right, now we're going to highlight the whole thing because we want to get our center line markers. We're going to drag him over, and we're going to try and align him. Now, because we are lining up with the grid lines here, I could just line it like that using the arrows that we put in. And we know that we are pretty darn close to having our turntable on the center. Or if we're off, if we're not on a major grid like this, you can just use the cross points and try and get it as close as you can to where everybody converges right there. So I'm just going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to push him into place a little bit better. And I think, boy, that looks pretty darn good there. So we're getting close here. All right, now, the roundhouse drawing is off just a tiny bit. And you can tell by looking at the circles here and also where the track hits the front of the roundhouse. It's really darn close. The person who drew this did a very good job, but it's off just a tiny bit. But the thing is, I mean, let's face it, you're not going to use this. You're not going to print this out and use this as the absolute last word in how you're going to put your track down. You're going to put in your turntable. You're going to mark your track for your roundhouse. You'll have your roundhouse in place. You're going to mark it. And, you know, you're not really going to work off of this. This is more of, you know, okay, I have a roundhouse here. I have tracks on my drawing. And it's going to go somewhere in here within a few inches either way. Okay, now we need to shorten up our tracks. So I'm just going to grab them, hold down the Shift key, and bring them up. Okay, and like I said, this is just an approximation. Now, there's two ways to do this. One way is to come up here and hold down your Shift key and click at the junction where they all come together and see what track you get. See if you can drag anybody back. Doesn't look like we can. Let me try it again. Nope, I am not. There we go. It's kind of hit and miss. Or the other way to do it is come over here, cut the flex, then delete this, and then grab it and bring it up that way. So you can do it either way, whatever works best for you. All right, now we have our roundhouse, our turntable, and our tracks for our roundhouse laid out. Now, if I want to spin this, remember, I cannot group it. And I come in here and I select something, it's not going to let me group it. I can't even turn it into a section or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to guess that most of you caught my little mistake there. I said you can't create a section, but when I had the drop-down menu open, it said create section. Okay, you can create a section, but it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. So let me show you this real fast. So I've selected everything, the turntable, the roundhouse, and the tracks. I come over here and I say create section. And all it does is it makes 6 different sections here out of the tracks leading from the turntable. So let's undo that. And now you'll notice that if I drag it over and select something else, it doesn't allow me to do anything. So I just wanted to drop that in because I didn't want somebody to say, well, it said you can create a section. Yeah, you can, but it only creates a section out of the track. I can come up and I can grab the whole thing. And now I can rotate it. And I can say, well, okay, we want that to be at 45 degrees counterclockwise. There we go. So that's how I did this. And if you want, you can come in and you can rotate just the turntable, and you can get the turntable bridge here to line up with a piece of track, kind of like what I did here. Now, keep in mind that I don't have the instructions for this turntable, nor do I have the roundhouse in my possession. So I'm doing this drawing solely based on, how it worked out here. I watched a video online about the installation of this turntable, and I'll put a link to that video down below. And what he said when he was reading the instructions is the distance from the front of the roundhouse to the center of the turntable. And it gave a measurement. And when I measured this, it came out differently. So like I said, this is an approximation. I wouldn't, print this out and start laying track without having all of your components in place. So, okay, I showed you how I laid this out. Now, in the next video, I'm going to modify this turntable. And I'm going to move the turntable bridge around so it lines up in the middle. And then I'm going to save it as an object. And that will be a really simple video on how you can modify an object. And I think what I'll do is I will investigate that a little bit further, and we will do a video on not only how to modify an object, but also how to design an object on your own. So I'll see you in video 27 when we modify this turntable.